Today, for the Solid Rock Church family and her immediate family, it's both a day of mourning and joy at the passing of Sister Cathy Edwards. It's a time of mourning because a dear friend and loved one has left us. But it is also a time of joy because she knew the Lord and she's in His presence right now and feels no more pain. When I was sitting down to write this out, I didn't even know what to say about Cathy, and I know I'm only going to do it half justice, if anything, because there is so much to say about her, and the time will not allow us to do so. But I met her about 40 years ago. Let me tell you something. She was wide open. Foot to the floorboard. Crazy and funny. She didn't care what anyone thought. And then she met Jesus. I think she slammed right into Him. He totally turned her around and made a new creature out of her. And then, guess what? Wide open again. Foot to the floor. Crazy, funny, and still not caring what anyone thought about that either. What an awesome lady. I made the joke that I had a deal with her when we started working together and she came to church here, because I hadn't seen her in probably 30-some years. And I told her, I said, I won't tell any dirt on you if you won't tell any dirt on me. And that was kind of the deal we cut. But now yesterday at her memorial service, the French teacher from Amherst showed up. And at the end of the service, he looked at me and he went, I can't believe you up there preaching. He said, I can still tell some dirt on you. But I hope he won't forget all about it. Cathy's last 3 years were lived even more wide open than she had ever lived in her life. More zest for living, even more intense, if you can believe that, than she ever was before. You know what? And this is the way she lived. She lived like she was dying. She did. And she made every single day count. And she had struggled with cancer for at least 3 years that anybody knew of. But to look at her, you would never know it. To listen to her, you would never know it. Only her closest friends knew anything was wrong with her and her church family, because she was too busy living to whine about her situation. She really was. She sung everywhere. She sung for everybody's funerals, some weddings, and other churches would always be calling her and ask her to come and sing, and she never turned anybody down. She would go around visiting with people and encouraging them and lifting them up. And all along, nobody knew that she was feeling pain or that she was sick, because she was more concerned with them. She helped out a whole lot by contributing to the food bank and going around to the stores and rounding up food and all to help us when we ran through such a shortage. And I'm going to tell you something. When you saw Cathy coming and you didn't want to hear about Jesus, you better hide. You better hide, because you were going to hear. Jesus consumed her life, and she served Him with all her might. So many people would ask, why is Cathy like that? Why is she so wide open all the time? And I would tell them that she is living each day like it was her last and it could have been. Maybe we ought to take a little example from that. There's not a soul in here that is guaranteed Monday morning. None of you. I don't care how healthy you are, how young you are, even how old you are, nobody in here is guaranteed tomorrow morning. It doesn't matter what your situation is. Today could be the last day you will ever spend on earth. What will you do with it? How will you live? Will you waste it, or will you use it wisely like Cathy did? If you knew this was your last day on earth, would you care what anybody thought about you? I don't think so. You'd be out there busy telling the truth, trying to warn everybody, trying to tell everybody about the Lord, trying to get everybody ready. When the Apostle Paul wrote the second letter to Timothy, and that's where we're going to be at this morning, 2 Timothy chapter 4, Paul knew his time was about up. And so he begins with a charge to Timothy, and then he begins to reflect on his life. And I thought of Cathy when I read this, and I would like to parallel her life to these verses. In one of his final letters, Paul said this to Timothy: I charge thee therefore before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who shall judge the living and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word, be instant in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. Let me tell you something. Cathy was quick in season and out of season. It didn't matter what the situation, she was willing to share her faith. Always willing to share the gospel and her testimony to anyone who wanted to hear it. And even if they didn't want to hear it, they still got to hear it. And I'm glad she was like that. She didn't walk on eggshells around anybody. I just can't deal with anybody that's like that. People that want to smooth things over. And I just like the freight train. Bring it on. And just tell it like it is. Tell the truth. You know, we don't have enough time right now to smooth nothing over. We really don't. We need to all be just like that and be bold and tell it the way it is. Bible says, for the time will come when people will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned unto fables. Cathy would always share with me how people had gone after cults and false doctrines and didn't want to hear the truth, and it grieved her heart, and she witnessed to everybody she could and to try to bring them back from the weird beliefs that they had. Paul said to Timothy, watch in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, make full proof of your ministry. Cathy did the work of an evangelist. She was never licensed or ordained, and had she been on this earth any time longer, she probably would have. But she did the work of an evangelist. She traveled to any and every church that would invite her. She was always at a gospel sing and always had her soundtracks with her no matter where she went. I met her again at a gospel sing. I hadn't seen her in 30-some years. And Donna and I were at a gospel sing at a church over in town, and then this girl comes walking in. And she goes on up about halfway and sits down. And I looked at Donna. I said, I think I know her. I said, I got to see this. I said, if there's hope for her, there's hope for all of us. I was saying that, you know, because I remember her from the wild days. And then she got up there and sung, and you ever seen that cartoon where the jaw drops open and hits the floor and makes a clanking noise? That's the way I was. I was going, wow, I didn't even know she could sing, and it was awesome. And I said, oh my goodness, Donna, look at this. And she didn't know Cathy at the time. I said, this is amazing. Her and I went to school together. Then I saw her at another one, and I had to go up to her and say who I was, because I don't look like me from back then. And we struck up a friendship, and we got to talking, and well, then here we are. Okay, you know how that works. Cathy always evangelized, and when she got up there to sing, she gave her testimony. She told what Jesus had done for her and all that. She's a trophy of grace. I said that yesterday at her memorial service. She is a trophy. She's the 10-point buck that Jesus has on his wall that everybody tried to get. The devil couldn't get her as a trophy. Jesus has her as a trophy. Cathy endured a lot of afflictions. Paul talked about that. For the 3+ years she had cancer, she endured a lot of sickness and a lot of pain and a lot of difficulty. But she would get going every day. She recorded at least 2 CD albums of gospel music with lung cancer. Now, that'll give us no excuse to complain, won't it? And she did a great job. And she would sometimes have to stop and get her breath and try not to feel so sick. And then she'd go, I'm all right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. And she served God with an urgency. She made full proof of her ministry, as Paul told Timothy. Then Paul says, for I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. When she was just a couple of days of passing away, she called Donna, and it was just like she wasn't excited, she wasn't upset or anything like that. She told Donna, she said, I'll be gone in a couple of days, and I just want to see y'all, and I want to get everything in order. And she was completely ready. She was at total peace, and that's rare. Y'all know that. That is rare when somebody is facing that and knows it's going to happen in a couple of days. She stayed calm. She was okay. She was looking forward to seeing the Lord. She just didn't want to leave her loved ones. That's the only regret she had. She made full proof of her ministry. She offered herself to the Lord without one bit of complaining. Then Paul said, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. She fought until her last breath, and she knew her time was up, and she never once blamed God, and she never turned away from him, and she was just concerned over her family way more than herself. She always was that way. She was always more concerned about what everybody else's situation was than her own. And that is the way to live as a Christian. It really, really is. Let me tell you something. Anytime you get your mind off yourself and put it on somebody else's, you will feel better. You always can find somebody that is in a worse predicament than you are in. And if not, stick around, we'll show you some. But she understood that God was finished with what he had placed her on this earth to do, and it was time to come home. She kept the faith. What a testimony. What a testimony. Paul said, henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day. Not to me only, but to all them that love his appearing. Cathy had to appear before what is called the Bema seat, or the judgment seat of Christ, where only Christians go. And it was to give an account of her race that she ran down here. We all have to do that. If you are saved, you will appear before that seat, and Jesus is sitting there, and he has his rewards to give you depending on what you did in this life. You see, everybody down here is assigned a task. I don't know what your task may be necessarily, but God knows what it is, and you should know what it is. But everybody has one. I know what mine is. And we are expected to run with what God has given us. Whatever assignment, whatever health we have when we have it, it doesn't make any difference. You are to run your race, and you are to run your race faithfully until you are done. And so she appeared before him, and she received her rewards for what she had done for him while she was here. And so in 2 Timothy 2, Paul says this, thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Christ Jesus, and the things which you have heard of me among many witnesses commit thou to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ, because no man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. And if a man also strive for masteries, yet is he not crowned, except he does it lawfully. Cathy had to endure hardness as a good soldier. And I don't care if she was a woman, she'd have made a good foot soldier. I know I'd rather have had her backing me up with a shotgun than a whole lot of men I know. I talked to people that had worked with her at VDOT and a couple of other places and said she could work 2 men in the ground.